Shabbat Shalom. This week is Shabbos Nachamu, the first of 7 consecutive Shabbatot that are devoted to consolation. After having 3 weeks of mourning culminating in Tisha B'Av, we now have the 7 consecutive Shabbatot of consolation. And this week, the Parshat V'etchanan, the first and with the most emphatic call for consolation, coming from the opening verse of the 40th chapter in the prophet Isaiah and Yeshayahu, which begins, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, my people, console yourselves, console yourselves. But what is the consolation? Consolation begins, Kol Korei Bamidbar Panu Derech Hashem, Yashru Bamidbar Mesila Eloheinu. Now, most people parse this sentence punctuated by saying Kol Korei Bamidbar. It's become almost an idiom in Hebrew, Kol Korei Bamidbar, a voice crying in the wilderness. But actually, that is not the punctuation of the Ta'amei Mikra, which are not just cantillation marks. We chant the Haftarah or sing it, but actually punctuate the sentence. And it should be read, Kol Korei, a voice is calling. Then we have, as we have so often in Nevi'im, chiastic, a phrase that repeats the same idea using different words in a different order. First time it says, Panu Derech Hashem, clear a path, the path of God. And then, Yeshru B'Arava, Mesila Beloheinu, straighten out in the desert a path, a track for our God. So what is this? What is the consolation here? How are the Jewish people supposed to be consoled by hearing there's this voice crying out, clear a path for God? Most people would say, well, obviously, it means that God is coming to redeem the Jewish people. So there is a call, when the king comes to clear the path, clear the roads, because the king is coming. But I think that there's a different meaning that gives a different, I think, deeper and I think more truthful and realistic interpretation of what true redemption means. So I'm going to propose an allegorical reading of the first verses of this prophecy. And before you tell me, wait, where are you going off on a tangent? Remember that even this simple explanation that I gave in the earlier segment about clearing a path for God and straightening out a crooked road for God is allegorical. God doesn't need anyone to fill in the potholes. That's not going to prevent him from getting to anywhere he wants to go. So, in any case, we have to understand this allegorically, and I suggest that we regard it as something as a prophecy that is addressed to us. Panu Derech is addressed to us, but it's addressed to us who are in each and every one of us, and maybe collectively as well, in a midbar, in the Arava, in some sort of spiritual wilderness. And we are asked to clear a path in our own hearts, in our own minds, in our own selves for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what the prophecy is saying. That's what we do we do tshuva. Tshuva is not simply repenting on sins. It's not limited to people who have stolen or committed assault or bribery or anything like that. Tshuva is something that we all have got to do all the time in terms of self-perfection, self-correction. There's no one has nothing to correct. And there's no one who can't get even higher than where he is right now, or where she is right now, if you put your mind to it. And this is what the prophet is saying. Panu Derech Hashem, clear a path of God. Now, what's the consolation? Why is this a consolation? Because it's one of the greatest blessings, the gifts that God has given us, is this possibility for self-improvement, this possibility to climb ever higher, responsibility to straighten out whatever anomalies, let us call it, we have in our personalities, and get rid of whatever may be blocking us inside from progressing on the spiritual path. This is the greatest consolation. When God can tell us, clear a path, it means you can do it. You have this possibility. And that's why Panu Derech Hashem, Yasharu Mesila, is a great consolation. God is telling us it is possible to correct whatever you've neglected in the past. It is possible to attain a higher level, and this is the greatest consolation of all. Nachamu.